Moved by Mr. Eagleson, seconded by Ms. Jackson, that the minutes of the October 1st and 22nd, 2015 council sessions be adopted as circulated.
Are there any errors, omissions, or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. Communications, Betty Ann?
Communications were circulated, but we do have an addendum to the communications. The first item is the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for Cities and Climate Change. An invitation has been extended to Warden Tulin as Bruce County's representative to the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative to attend the Climate Summit for Local Leaders on December 4th, 2015 in Paris, France. And I would just like to turn that over to our CAO to add some further details.
Through you, Mr. Warden, this is as your duty as chair for the Great Lakes Initiative, and at this point in time, there are no funding requirements from the County of Bruce, but I was pretty confident that you wouldn't bring it forward for council to see, and I think it's a very big deal and worthy of recognition.
Good, thank you.
And that communication would be filed.
Thank you.
The second communication is the Township of Mulmer extending an invitation to those municipalities listed in the Niagara Escarpment Plan Review 2015 report to meet to discuss and develop a plan to coordinate efforts to prevent an attempt to expand regulated land areas.
Motion to note and file. Mike, seconded by Robert. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, delegations. We have the podium is yours.
Thank you very much, Warden. And it's great to be here again on behalf of Bruce Power. I appreciate the time you're giving to us to provide you with an update, and certainly welcome any questions that you have. I will get right into it. There we go. Safety first, always with Bruce Power. That's over 11 million hours worked since our last lost time injury. Certainly another strong run for us. I think the last lost time injury we had was in the winter of last year, a slip and fall in a parking lot, which is something I think we can all relate to and unfortunately look forward to again as winter approaches. It's been a really strong performance year. This slide shows the performance for Bruce A, Bruce B, and combined 85% combined year to date, which is really strong considering we had a really busy outage year, including a vacuum building outage at Bruce B that lasted about 22 days and had all 4 units off at Bruce B, and you'll recall that's a once every 10 years regulatory requirement. So we are on plan, and currently, as we'll see on the next slide, we just had Unit 4, which was out since July on a planned outage, just came back on Saturday. So we now have all 8 units running, providing, last time I looked, about 32% of the province's power, and having all 8 units is great as we head into the winter months when we know demand is high in the province. Some of the initiatives we've been working on, it's been a really advocacy, and some of the things we're doing, recent initiative we're doing with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Businesses has got a lot of attention in the media and certainly in the Aboriginal community. Again, trying to encourage some of our suppliers to get involved in the CCAB and their Progressive Aboriginal Relations campaign, of which Bruce Power is a member, and it's trying to encourage things like hiring, doing business with Aboriginal communities. It's something that we're very passionate about, and now encouraging all of our suppliers to get involved. JP Gladue, who's the president and CEO of the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business, has been very upbeat on this one, calling it sort of transformational and a watershed for Aboriginal business, as he hopes other businesses will start doing this as well, and encouraging their suppliers to get involved. So we're happy about that one. We released a report in September. Just again, we've been doing a lot of advocacy about nuclear and the impact that it has both economically and clean air wise. So we released this publication along with a speech from Senator Evan Bayh, former Senator Evan Bayh, who is a real nuclear advocate. So again, just telling that nuclear story, and for us it's good to have some different voices, and I think there's another one going on right now in Toronto where we have Carol Browner, who is a former Obama climate change expert, and she's in Toronto doing a speech to the Empire Club, again, just touting the benefits of nuclear, and we think it's important to get some different voices doing that. So that is ongoing. We also signed, we've been doing a lot of these collaboration agreements. This one was with the Ontario Building and Construction Trades again in September. Just we're trying to really secure some of the partnerships that we have had that have been long going but not really formalized. So we're formalizing some of those to make sure we're focused together. And this one really is about ensuring we have enough skilled trades, short-term and long-term. We're promoting recruitment training, apprenticeships. So that was a very successful partnership that is ongoing. We also produced a document that I'm sure some of you have seen, just talking about the public-private partnership aspect of Bruce Power, which is something we probably haven't talked about enough. It is a very successful model, and one that I think a lot of the public don't really either spend a lot of time thinking about or understand. So this book really did sort of highlight that successful arrangement where we're continuing to invest and have invested $10 billion into assets that remained owned by the province. And we think it is a successful model and one that deserves a little bit of recognition, which is why we produced that. Medical grade cobalt was something that we just announced a couple of weeks ago, a event at Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto, where they actually use this technology. And we've produced cobalt for years, and it's used for the cobalt we've produced is used for sterilizing single-use medical equipment, gloves, syringes, and things like that. So this is a big step for us in that it's a medical-grade cobalt that is used to treat cancers, brain cancer, and it was a really moving ceremony we had where we had a doctor speaking and one of the patients who's benefited from this technology. So I think our employees are really proud of the electricity we produce, and I think this is another thing that we can all be very proud of now that we're producing this technology that will help fight cancer worldwide. And it's one of the isotopes produced by the NRU, which is set to close in, I believe, 2017. So we're happy to be partnering with Nordion to provide this isotope that will soon not be produced up at Chalk River. Some fundraising, the Owen Sound Fire, you'll recall in August, our employees dug deep and raised $14,000 for fire victims. We've also been doing fundraising for the Syrian Refugee Fund in Saugeen Shores. Just yesterday, in recognitions of Remembrance Day, we donated just over $100,000 to Wounded Warriors. A lot of that money was raised at our suppliers' golf tournament in the summer, but we did a gate collection with employees, which raised over $10,000 yesterday. So we were really pleased to be able to do that at a ceremony on site, recognizing Remembrance Day and the great work that Wounded Warriors do. Electric vehicles is another initiative we've been working on. We developed a free iPhone app in partnership with Plug and Drive, which is the sort of electric car organization. We've got charging stations at our visitor center and more coming, as you'll see in Port Elgin, Southampton, Roxeter, further stations planned for Kincardine, Sauble Beach, and Owen Sound. Our President and CEO, Duncan Hawthorne, was down at Queen's Park a couple of weeks ago for an electric vehicle day where MPPs were able to pop out at Queen's Park and look at some of the electric vehicles that are out there, and Duncan spoke about the opportunities that electric vehicles present and the real sense it makes for nuclear. You know, we know we're a 24-hour business. There's not a lot of demand overnight, and it makes a lot of sense as we tackle climate change. Electric cars are going to become more popular, and people can charge overnight, and we can supply that demand. So we really will continue to promote those. Fire Fit Challenge, something held in Port Elgin. This is the second year in a row. We were involved as hosting this event. We believe it's going to become an annual event, real popular event in Saugeen Shores. The chamber there was very excited to hear about us doing this on a weekend that I learned was not traditionally a real busy one, tourism-wise. So I think this is only going to get bigger and better, and a great chance for us to showcase the talent we have in our Emergency and Protective Services division. Polling, we've been doing monthly polling on support for refurbishment for about a year now, and in September hit the highest level to date, 81%, and that is across Ontario, support for refurbishment, and that's obviously really important for us as we continue to negotiate with government on a deal for refurbishing the 6 more units that we have to do. So the October numbers are in, they're down slightly, but not materially. I think it's 78%, so it's been fairly steady, but those are fairly high levels, I think you will agree. So as far as what's next, November, December, we're going to open our doors to the world for OSART review by the International Atomic Energy Agency. It's an operational safety review by an international team. A really big deal for us, and an important opportunity for us to sort of open our doors and see how we stack up against other nuclear plants around the world. And I think the thing we're all interested in is ongoing as we continue to discuss with the province around future refurbishment of the Bruce Power units. And as soon as we have news to share on that, we will obviously be sharing it far and wide and soon. So that is it for my quick update, but I'm certainly very happy to take any questions you might have.
Good, thank you, John. Any questions from council? Janice?
Thank you for that presentation. Can you tell me when you're rolling out that second phase for the charging stations?
I don't know those dates. I know that is something I could provide, but yeah, I have soon. Yeah, I would say next year, as soon as yeah, I would think spring of next year. I know that they want to do it sooner rather than later. I just not sure of those dates. Yeah.
Any other questions? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. John, thanks very much for the presentation. And maybe it's what will change at the plant operationally to provide this? And maybe some unfair questions. I don't know. Is there much to change? Or
Yeah, it doesn't involve a significant change. No, it is a technical thing, and these cobalt rods go into the reactor and stay in there for a year or longer, and then are taken out and transported to Nordion, So yeah, it is technical, but I'm told it's not a real difficult thing. But it would be difficult for me to try to explain it, and probably not a good idea.
I apologize for putting you on the bench.
No, that's okay. No,
as an old operator, I had some interest.
Yeah,
in it.
yeah. I'm sure you probably know more about it than I do, Mike. So.
Okay, any other questions? Good, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the visual history of Bruce County, and we have Ross Lamont from the Bruce County Historical Society here. Welcome, Ross.
Thank you, Warden. It's a pleasure to be back in front of Bruce County Council again. It's been I watched John's presentation with interest after having done that for many years. But I'm here for an entirely different thing, but it's a very exciting project for Bruce County. At least we think it's a very exciting project for Bruce County, and I know some of you are somewhat familiar already with the project through other things that I've done, but we'll hope to bring you all up to speed and address any questions that you may have. So to start with, who's involved in it, this is a project that's driven by the Bruce County Historical Society, which is a group of volunteers that are interested in ensuring that the history of Bruce County is preserved and told. And so we're kind of a dedicated group of people that are kind of anal about liking history. So some of my colleagues here are with me, and I'll introduce some of them in a minute. The steering committee, which was formed out of some members from the Bruce County Historical Society, being Irene Howe, Robin Hilburn, Norrin Fitzsimmons, and Anne-Marie Collins, and myself. And some of you will know Doran, who is here, and some may know Robin, who is here. Irene couldn't be with us today, and of course you know Anne-Marie Collins from the Museum and Cultural Center, who's a tremendous asset, as is the whole staff at the Museum and Cultural Center to the Historical Society. And Jeff Hemming is here as well from the Historical Society. We've also added a couple of I'll call them leading citizens of the county to help us with this project, Joe Dietrich and Patrick Kelly, both longtime families of Bruce County and interested in history and bring a lot of skills to the table. But it's a big table and there's room for more people to be involved in this at a steering committee level or otherwise. The real brains of the project when it comes to doing it is Zach Melnick and Yvonne Durbert from the Ontario Visual Heritage Project. And Zach is here, and Zach's going to speak to one of the slides in a few minutes. So rest assured that we do have technically competent people that are going to be running the show when it comes to actually making it, and it won't be me on either side of the camera. Critically important to the process is sponsorships, and we have sponsorships at various levels, and I'm going to talk specifically about the level we're hoping the county's at in a few minutes. And then also integrally important to this whole thing is the local historians, the storytellers. We have great historians and storytellers around the county and great stories to tell. And we also want to involve students and amateur actors in enactments and really bring in a whole group of people. We also want to engage the First Nations and Métis to tell their part of the history, especially the early part of the history of the county, because it is an integral part of our story, and we want to have that told. As some of you know, I talk fast, but there's time for questions at the end. So what are the key deliverables? I think at the Keystone, there'll be 3 50-minute episodes that will be played on TV Ontario, and they'll play a number of times over a number of years, probably 4 to 8 times over the next number of years, to an audience of probably at least 100,000 each time it plays. There'll be DVDs and Blu-rays for all the libraries and schools in Bruce County, and Darlene, I think, has distributed a copy of one of the ones that was done by this organization, so that you can take it home and have a look at the kind of quality. That's assuming that you didn't see them on TV Ontario already, and I know you're all avid watchers of TV Ontario. The production is designed to fit with the Ontario curriculum in a number of different things, from history, geography, media arts, a whole number of curriculums through elementary and high school. So it will fit in there. There'll be a major premiere screening event and probably subsequent smaller events across the county. It'll be up on a website. All the partners will have access to the materials, and all the extra footage will be there for future purposes as well. So why is this project important to Bruce County? Well, we think that it's absolutely important to tell the great history of Bruce County. With the 150th anniversary of Bruce County coming up in 2017, that was really the driver for the Historical Society to take on this project as a project for that 150th anniversary. You know, we know when we look at the pictures that surround us, there's 150 years of wardens watching over these proceedings, and some of them would be great stories to tell as well. We want to showcase the natural beauty of Bruce County. It's an amazing, from coastline to the peninsula to the farm valleys. It is great natural beauty, and sometimes we're so close to it we don't necessarily appreciate it, but it will be a chance to showcase that. We want to engage hundreds of residents of Bruce County across the county to be involved in enactments and storytelling, provide that critical information to our students to really drive a sense of pride in Bruce County for our students. We think this will be a great promoter of tourism and economic development in the area. That's what it's been in other areas where it's been done. It's an opportunity to promote our great heritage here in Bruce County and celebrate the, I'll call it unique culture of Bruce County. You know, people from Bruce County, there's hundreds and thousands of expatriate Bruce County people. You run into them wherever you go, and they're always proud to tell you they're from Bruce County. So I think it's really important as a means to celebrate that 150th anniversary. So I'm going to turn it over to Zach now to talk a little bit about how it's worked in other counties and areas where they've done this.
Sure, thanks very much, Ross. So this project has been developing over the last based on a nonprofit model that we've been putting together. And it's based on something we call the community-focused production model. And the idea is to try to get as much community participation in through all aspects of the production as possible. And that kind of is maybe what makes it a little bit different from most TV-type production. And I'll say that in the other projects that we worked in, the counties have always been a strong partner, and once the counties have come on board, then that's really been the clincher to making the project happen. So we've done 13 previous projects in communities across Ontario, so about 30 hours of programming, seen by about 2 million viewers on TVO so far. We've distributed about 5,000 DVDs to schools and libraries in Ontario. And I talked about the community-focused production model. Our partnership that we've been developing with TVO over the past 10 years, I guess, will mean that what's likely is that you won't just get the one play, you'll get plays for at least 4 years and probably 8 years after the thing is done. So it's kind of like a promotion of Bruce County history that kind of keeps on going. The project that we did on the other side of Georgian Bay is still playing regularly, so I expect you might expect the same thing. And the last thing I'll just say is that in all the projects that we've worked on in the past, I don't think we've ever had this much community level support this early on from the folks at the Bruce County Historical Society here. They really have they really have it together, and we're really looking forward to being able to harness some of that passion moving forward on this project. So thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Zach. And I can tell you when we first contemplated this project and the concept was put before us, we did a little bit of due diligence checking with some of the previous counties and areas that had the work done, and Zach and Yvonne come highly recommended, and they've been a treat to work with, and they really are passionate about storytelling and telling the history in such a way that it comes to life, that people can connect with it. It's not going to be a dry set of facts and figures. It's going to be a real storytelling history. So we think it's really neat, and we're glad to have them on board with us. So, of course, that gets to the, what's the role for Bruce County Council in this? Well, we obviously want and think that the county should be a premier partner. This is a once-in-a-lifetime project and a great opportunity. So first of all, we'll be looking for endorsement and visible support. So one of the things we're doing right now is in the process of making an application to for a trillium grant at an Ontario level for this, and so we'll be looking for a letter of support for that. We'd like all of you to be actively involved in the promotion of this over the next period of time as we build up a head of steam. That letter of support for the Trillium Grant application, and as some of you have already said to me, what's the ask? Well, the ask is for $25,000 over 2 years. That will give you the premier partnership level. The project itself will be somewhere in the order of a $250,000 project to be execute. Some of that will come through Trillium grants. Some of that will come through tax credits for the film production. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a number of levels of partnership that we're looking for. The $25K is the highest. Get the county included at. Once we get those initial sponsorships, then things then start to, it allows the trillium grant to take place, and it allows a lot of other things to really kick off and happen. And that's a commitment over 2 years. We don't need to walk out with a check. We just need to know that by the end of 2017 that there'll be that, whether it's split between the 2 years or this year or next year, however it works within your budgeting process. We really think that for Bruce County councilors, this is an opportunity to enjoy the attention and notice that's going to be given to Bruce County, and you're not really being asked to do the work to do it. But the Historical Society and the Steering Committee is prepared to do the work that's required to make that happen, but we think it's a great opportunity for all. And I didn't mention, but I should have, the theme is kind of Bruce County, Southern Ontario's last frontier. So if you look at it from whatever aspect you want, although because of the lake and the traffic that was up and around the peninsula and up and down the lake, there have been people around Bruce County for a long time. But even from a First Nations and Métis point of view, and then from settlers, this was the last sort of place that was settled in southwestern Ontario. It was the last opportunity for people to come here. So in many ways, it is that last frontier for southwestern Ontario. And the 3 episodes, the first one would be from the early days up to 1850-ish, when true settlement started to happen in Bruce County and the influx of European settlement. The next episode would be from 1850 to around 1900, where you really saw the development of it as a county, and the infrastructure develop, and the population and towns and villages spring up, and all of those things come to life. And then from 1900 on would be the last episode, which would be the modernization, which would focus on the industries, on the wood industries that developed, the fishing and forestry, the farming, tourism, and of course the nuclear industry. So there's and how that all developed into what Bruce County is today. So we think it's a great thing that people will be very interested in. From a schedule point of view, we actually did a launch in June of this year to get things started so that we could announce ourselves. We're now going through the process of lining up our major sponsors and key supporters, and we want to have that done over the next couple of months. And then we want to go into a more broad campaign. We'll be out speaking, or hoping to speak, to various chambers and Rotary clubs or Lions clubs or other interested groups across the county to really get the story out of what we're doing. And the research and development of the major storylines will go on. We've kind of divided our committee into a group that's looking after the logistical things and the financial things, and another that's really gathering the storytellers and doing that. So there'll be a parallel path going on there, and then as we get through into 16 and 17, developing the scripting and writing, and this is where Zach and Yvonne will be playing a much more major role in doing that, and then get into the film shooting, editing, and of course targeting to have the premiere event in September of 2017. You'll all want to reserve a front row seat for that. So in conclusion, I think simply put, this is just a great way to recognize Bruce County's 150th anniversary. I know that the county is and will be planning activities around that anyway, and so we'd like this to be kind of an integral cornerstone of whatever celebrations are planned for the year. We think it will be a great source of pride for all people tied to Bruce County, whether that's the people who live here today, the people who visit here on a regular basis, or people who visit here occasionally, and all the expatriate Bruce Countyites that are around the world. We think we're providing education for a future generation about Bruce County, its history and geography, and it's a tremendous way to promote Bruce County, our tremendous heritage and unique culture that we have here, as well as driving growth in tourism and economic development. So, simply put, I think it's a project that you just can't not want to be part of. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll happy to take any questions that you might have.
Good, thank you, Ross. Questions from council? I think part of this process, you probably want to get engaged with the oldest member of the county council, and with
But
his
he
30...
he is a storyteller, so.
Yeah, so that's just a recommendation from county council, so. But I want to thank the group for all the work you're doing to promote Bruce County. I know it's time that you're giving up for this project, and I know we at county council surely appreciate that. So what we will do, Ross, is refer your ask of $25,000 to corporate services, and I think we could probably find a way to get some money to you. So keep up the good work, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up we have John Mann. The podium is yours.
Thank you, Warden. My delegation today is about the procedural bylaw regarding limiting citizens to one delegation per topic in 6 months. I had a delegation in September regarding the same thing, and in my view, it's unconstitutional as a violation of the democratic right to the unfettered right, fundamental right, the elected officials. And this council then referred my delegation, my comments, to the Corporate Services Committee in October. The Corporate Services Committee was to review it. I attended that meeting, and there was not one comment made by the Corporate Services Committee members, who are the elected officials that comprise of council. They all unanimously raised their hand just to see what the staff was. Why this bylaw was necessary, who proposed it, how it got started, nothing. No debate, no comment, no discussion whatsoever. And in my view, that's something that council has to do when they're enacting laws. They have to debate it, they have to discuss it, and they have to tell the citizens why they're doing what they're doing. They can't delegate it to staff. In fact, it's improper to delegate it to staff. They're lawmaking functions. And when the court interprets a case, a bylaw, they have to look at what was the intent of the legislative body. Well, that's the elected officials. And if they have no comment or discussion on it, how do they know? So we've got a bylaw that says in 6 months, you can only, a citizen can only come and give a delegation one time on one topic. There's no discussion regarding why that's necessary. There's no comment that, well, we've got 1,000 applicants every time, 1,000 citizens want to discuss a delegation every council meeting. Well, then you might be able to limit a citizen's participation because, I mean, obviously you've got to control your meetings. But when there's no citizens here pounding at the door saying, hey, I want to go, Mr. Mann had his say last month, you know, there's no reason to put this bylaw in. Thus, you're limiting a fundamental constitutional right with no rational basis. There's no legal basis. It is nothing but arbitrary, particularly when there's no debate about it, no discussion. And the amazing thing is, when you referred it to council, it was discovered that the bylaw that actually was adopted by this council wasn't the one that was recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. It had two major substantive changes. One, the bylaw that was originally passed by this council was if a citizen spoke on one topic, he couldn't come back again, period. He or she couldn't come back again and speak on that topic, period. There was no time limit. And the other substantive difference, the warden gave permission. Well, the bylaw that was proposed and recommended by, enacted, indicated that there was a 6-month limitation. In other words, you couldn't come back, a citizen couldn't come back within 6 months and give the same topic. Unless council as a whole gave permission, not just the warden. So those are two very major substantive conditions. How is that possible? Does it make, in my view, it makes the law that's presently on the books that is unlimited, void ab initio, right from the beginning. But that needs to be repealed. That's what I asked for, that bylaw to be repealed. And the Corporate Services Committee agreed with that needs to be repealed, and it's to be repealed today, as I understand it. But that doesn't end it there, because then they're proposing and adopt what we initially recommended, that the 6-month limitation be included, and council be the one to give permission if possible. Well, that doesn't assist at all. That remains unconstitutional. Obviously, you're repealing the unconstitutional part, the bylaw that said you can't come back ever. You've determined, or council is determining today, that that's unconstitutional because that's just unfair and contrary to all democratic principles. But to just say, oh, we're just going to make it 6 months, that doesn't make it constitutional all of a sudden. Then the way you can limit it to 6 months, you have to have a discussion about it. Why is 6 months the magic line? And as I understand it, none of my criticisms and comments were taken into account by the Corporate Services Committee. The staff report merely said, hey, a number of other jurisdictions in Ontario have this type of bylaw, limiting it to 3 or 6 months or unlimited time, where a citizen can only give one delegation per topic. But just because Kincardine has 3 months doesn't mean, hey, well, we'll do 6 months. Or Saugeen Shores has a 6-month bylaw. Hey, we'll do 6 months. That sounds good. You got to have a discussion. Why do you need it here in Bruce County? Why is there a need to have a 6-month limitation for me to come back and give a delegation again on the same topic? You have to debate it. You have to discuss it. You can't just raise your hand and say, oh, we agree with staff. It's arbitrary. There's no rational basis, and there's no legal basis for it. It's just plain unconstitutional. And after my delegation here today, I expect that there will be no discussion. There will be no debate about what I say. You will raise your hand and adopt the bylaw, repeal the other one because it's unconstitutional, but say, well, it's constitutional now that we're making a 6-month deadline. Well, why isn't the unlimited one constitutional if you're going to make the 6-month? Why not make it unlimited? You must have a reason. Well, no, that's not good enough anymore. You got to repeal that, according to council, but with no discussion. But you're going to make it 6 months. Why is that necessary? How about Kincardine's 3-month? Why did they pick 3? Why is 3 good? Why is 3 days good? Particularly when you have nobody here sitting here waiting to, talk before I do. I agree, I shouldn't be talking before somebody else has had a chance if I've already given a point. But if no one is waiting, I should have every right to stand before you and express my fundamental right to communicate with my elected officials. So what I'm asking now is for you to debate it, discuss it. Why do we have the 6-month? Where did it come from? Who proposed it? There's nothing on the record that indicates any council person here said, hey, it'd be a good idea to limit the delegations to once every 6 months. Well, that's how you get a law passed. The elected officials propose it, they debate it and discuss it, and they come up with a law that can be interpreted by citizens, number one, why did they do it? And the courts, number two, if it's ever challenged. But just sitting there, oh, staff said it's okay, we're okay with it, other towns do it, we'll do it. That is meaningless, arbitrary, capricious, and can't withstand constitutional muster. It's your obligation, and frankly, I don't understand why you want to be leaders of our community, elected officials, if you don't want to debate this stuff. I mean, that's the point of democracy, to debate it, to discuss it. Say, hey, Mr. Mann, we don't agree with you for these reasons. Don't just raise your hand when, just refer to staff and say, well, what do they think about it? And when you referred it, I expected it to be reviewed. It wasn't reviewed. None of my comments were reviewed. And that makes one wonder about the trustworthiness of council. That's why people are so cynical about politics. You must have other discussions off the record. I can't imagine somebody not wanting to discuss this. And how was it missed when you all adopted the bylaw that's there in the books right now, that there's no 6-month limitation, it's unlimited? How was that missed? In my view, it means that you didn't even look at it. Because if you looked at it, you would have said, hey, what happened to the 6-month deadline? You all reviewed that. You saw the 6-month deadline wasn't in there. After you recommended the 6-month deadline for council, you're all the same members, and you go there and, hey, the 6-month deadline's no longer there. But you said you approved it anyway. And you approved the warden giving permission instead of the entire council, even though you knew from recommending it to council, you're the same members, that the council was in the original recommendation that you made. How is that possible? And if I hadn't raised it, that unconstitutional bylaw of unlimited time would remain. And don't get me wrong, 6 months is too long. 1 day is too long. If I want to give if a citizen wants to present a delegation to this council, he or she has that fundamental right. And it's the cornerstone and foundation to our democracy. That there will be no discussion, no debate, and no comment whatsoever on the bylaw that you will be adopting today regarding the 6-month prohibition. I expect that you just will pass it without comment. And I think that's wrong. And as you know, as I emailed you yesterday, the ombudsman apparently doesn't want to get involved. So what recourse do we have, particularly after having 7 years of unlawful DGR meetings? There's no consequences to that. So in essence, you can do whatever you want without accountability and just approve what the staff says. Just here to approve and raise your hand when staff says something and recommends it. There's really no need for counsel in my view. I hope that you do not pass this. I hope you have a thorough discussion and debate about it. And you give reasons, thoughtful reasons of why there's a rational basis for this 6-month one-topic bylaw. Why there's a lawful reason and why it's not arbitrary. Why 6 months is better than 3. Why 6 months is better than unlimited. Or why any time is needed. Why is it necessary? There's no reason whatsoever. And if occasionally if there's too many delegations, I've sat out before saying there's too many delegations. I fully understand that. Not being unreasonable on this. But to just have a blanket 6-month prohibition is just a violation of the charter and our fundamental constitutional right to communicate with our elected officials. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Is there any comments or questions from council? Hearing none. Oh, sorry, Paul.
Mr. Mann, you referred to our bylaw being unconstitutional. And where is that coming from? Is that in your opinion, or is it written somewhere that it's unconstitutional?
In my presentation, I cited a case, R versus Robbins, where the Ontario Court of Appeal said specifically that citizens have an unfettered right to communicate with their elected officials. And the Crown conceded that in that case. The Court of Appeal noted that directly. This is a limitation on that unfettered right. This bylaw is a limitation on that unfettered right. And while you can limit charter rights, you have to have a rational basis for it, a legitimate purpose, a lawful reason to limit any charter right. As, well, we've got 1,000 applicants every week, Mr. Mann. We can't be listening to you every week. Somebody's got to go before you get another shot. I fully understand that, and that's a legitimate basis, and a council can limit their proceedings that way. There's no question in my mind about that. But to just arbitrarily do it because Kincardine has a 3-month one, Saugeen Shores has a 6-month one, you initially passed an unlimited one. There's no rhyme or reason to that. There's no reason you haven't discussed why is unlimited unconstitutional, and we're going to pass 6-month now, and that makes it constitutional. You haven't even discussed that. Why do we need it, number one? Who proposed it? This is just democracy working as it should, not, hey, somebody else did it, so who wants it? Okay, we'll pass it. You got to discuss it. How does it work for Bruce County? In Toronto, maybe they do have hundreds pounding on the door every time there's a council meeting. And maybe there is a reason to have it there. In Bruce County, there is none.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Mann? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mann, for your presentation.
Thank you, Warden.
Okay, next up, we have the Bruce Remembers video, and obviously Remembrance Day was yesterday, and we haven't had an opportunity, as we do on a yearly basis, to remember those who served in Bruce County. So at this time, I would ask Darlene to please play this video. Okay, are there any county officer reports this morning? Hearing none, moving on to inquiries and announcements. I do have, oh, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I just wanted to inquire, how did you make out in grade 10 French anyways? Did you pay any attention to that at all?
Not very well, thank you. We had a very special evening on Tuesday night in Toronto, and on behalf of County Council, I'm so pleased to be able to celebrate our planning development team again. On Tuesday night, I was honored to attend the Ontario Tourism Awards of Excellence Gala in Toronto with Vicky Lee. Our Explore the Bruce Adventure Passport was the recipient of Tourism Marketing Campaign Award under $25,000. Our program is the Ontario was the best in class for the Ontario tourism industry because of our impactful partnerships, marketing activities, and media relations. For awareness, the Awards of Excellence are presented to organizations, businesses, and individuals that represent quality of outstanding offerings that make Ontario a world-class destination. So please join me in congratulating the members of Chris's team. We have Kara's not here, I don't see her. Jill's here, Vicky Lee, Shane Badge, Jesse McGibbon, Lisa Brocklebank, and Paulette Weber. And this was very exciting. We being there at this gala evening, and when we were announced, I'll be quite honest, Vicky jumped up and screamed, and I think scared a bunch of people. But I was so proud of the accomplishment of our staff and what they have done to bring recognition to the County of Bruce. And this is a wonderful program, and I hope County Council sees it fit to continue on with this, because it really is. I believe we had over 70,000 people that did the Explore the Bruce, and for a population of 65,000, that's pretty outstanding. So at this point, Vicky, I would welcome you up to the podium to add a few more comments and maybe show off the hardware that we received.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I had a pleasure on Tuesday night to attend the Ontario Tourism Gala, and I think Warden Mitch did see a different side of tourism and economic development. So when I attended, I didn't know what to expect. We didn't know if we would win because our competition was Niagara Falls. And so I was really proud and honored to say that we are winners. And the number one thing the MC, who was Heather Hillcox, what she said was, everyone, there's about 1,000 people in the room, look at the finalists because these are the leaders and these are the ones that you want to look to. And so it was an honor to be called County of Bruce being one of the leaders. And one thing that really touched me was, this is not only the County of Bruce's award, it's an award to showcase our municipalities, our business owners, our tourism operators, and really we all work together to get this and make this happen. Thank you.
Would you like to bring that up? We will get a picture. Is there any questions or comments from council? Mike?
Mr. Warden, I was trying to find it here, but last weekend I was watching on Detroit PBS, and there was a show there that was Bruce County was promoted, and it was again, I thought it was excellent. I came through the middle of it. Maybe Chris, you can update me on it, but it was Cara, and it was shown in Detroit Public. It was an outstanding film, I thought, and I was trying to find the schedule because it will be back on, and if we can get it, we all should watch it because we've done a great job of promoting individual communities and the county as a whole in the Detroit region.
I'm not sure specifically what show it was, but it may have been Great Getaways. We work with a company called Great Getaways, and I think we have 3 videos that we've developed with them. One was on the Bruce Trail, and so the co-hosts, they come here maybe every other year, and they actually walk the Bruce Trail. They actually experience what we have, and so we actually have a pretty good relationship where they love area, and they love showcasing it. And so, to be honest, we haven't paid anything, so I hope we don't receive a bill. But every time they show our Lighthouse video, our Bruce Trail video, or our Lake Huron Shoreline videos, we get a lot of inquiries and package inquiries.
This one was themed around, I think, the Lake Huron shore. It was the trails and the communities along the shore. But if you, I tried to find the schedule, but if you have any idea about the schedule that we could pass on, because it is well worth watching.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Mike. So Vicki, would you like to come forward, please? Don't drop it. Okay, are there any further inquiries or announcements at this time? Hearing none. Committee minutes, Betty Ann.
Committee minutes have been circulated, and I have a motion moved by Mr. Ingles, seconded by Mr. Smith, that the minutes of the following committees be approved. October 2015, Corporate Services Committee, Finance and Property Division, Human Resources Division, Emergency Services Committee, Homes Committee, Museum Committee, and Social Services and Housing Committee. October 8th, 2015, Corporate Services Committee, Finance and Property Division, Human Resources Division. October 22nd, 2015, Corporate Services Committee, Finance and Property Division, Human Resources Division. Development Committee, and Social Services and Housing Committee.
Are there any errors, omissions, or discussions from any of those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, opposed if any, thank you. Are there any further motions, Betty Ann?
No further motions.
Thank you. Any unfinished business at this time? Hearing none, moving on to bylaws.
Bylaws moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Ingles, that the following bylaws be approved. 2015-41, about to govern the proceedings of the Council and Committee of the Corporation of the County of Bruce. 2015-42, about to authorize speed limits on the Bruce County road system and in construction zones. 2015-43, about to authorize the warden and clerk to execute the road use agreement between the Corporation of the County of Bruce and the Municipality of Kincardine. 2015-44, about to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the County of Bruce at its meeting held the 12th day of November 2015.
Are there any further discussions on any of those bylaws? Paul?
I'm not sure on the process, but the bylaw 2041 to amend the proceedings, I know, can it be deferred back to, what would be the process to have it deferred so that we can have further discussion or debate on that bylaw? Let's go back to corporate services, be deferred today, or I think, I think there's merit to just have one more good discussion around that bylaw.
If I could add, the current bylaw that was passed and did not reflect the current recommendation of the Corporate Services Committee. So there was a flaw in that process. Today's bylaw would correct what the current committee's position is, so it would get that in, it would get that corrected, but also you could, so I would recommend that this bylaw be passed to at least to reflect the current position of the Corporate Services Committee, and then if there is a desire for the Corporate Services Committee to have further review of that particular section of the procedural bylaw, that could be made as a recommendation.
Any further discussions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. Motion, sorry.
So through you, Mr. Warden, we probably should have a resolution passed to refer it back to Corporate Services?
I would recommend that the section, if you want to have further review of that, it could either be dealt with here, or it could be brought up as new business in the Corporate Services Committee today, to ask that be brought back for consideration. But perhaps to deal with it at council, just a motion to have it referred to further review from council today.
Do I have a motion? Paul, do I have a seconder to refer back to Corporate Services? David? Are there any further discussions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried.
Moved by Ms. Jackson, seconded by Mr. Eagleson, that we do now adjourn to meet again Thursday, December 3rd, 2015 at 9:30 a.m. for the inaugural session.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.